Well, folks, I've been waiting a long time to do this knife. Really, it's overdue, this review on the Cold Steel Trailmaster in O-1 tool steel. This knife has been around basically since Cold Steel started. It was one of the very first blades they came out with in the 80s. And since then, it's gone through many different renditions of steels. And this model, this version, is the O-1 steel version. And I'm really excited to get out here today, show you the pros and cons of this design. Does an older design in a buoy blade really warrant the name Trailmaster? Is it a master of the trails that I'm on? Are there things that I like about it? Are there things that maybe hinder it from being really a master of the trail? So we're gonna talk about that, thrash on this bad boy, go through the ins and outs and see what this knife can do and whether or not it's a good large blade to implement into your systems of use. So with that, guys, let's go ahead, jump to it, and see what this baby can do. All right, let's take a look here at the blade, and no, this is not some cool camo pattern I did to match the fall colors. This is rust on the O-1 steel in the uncoated version. So we took this out. A lot of the footage you're gonna be seeing with this was on a snowy day for some of it, and we left it out, and I wanted to see how fast it would rust up. And this is after about a week of just putting it without really just wiping it off. I didn't oil it or anything. I just kind of wiped it off and threw it back into the sheath. And that's the rust that you're gonna see there. So you are gonna really have to maintain this because it's uncoated. And it's not a huge deal to me, being O-1 steel is definitely an upgrade, but just be aware of that. This thing rusts like crazy, so just be aware. What we are looking at overall from guard to tip is 9.5 inches overall blade length with a cutting edge of about 8.5 inches. Full flat grind into a heavy buoy clip design there, which is awesome. This swedge is almost sharp. It almost has a razor edge on it. If I were to slide my finger really fast along that, I would totally cut my finger open. So take that in consideration with batoning. It's not an actual edge. It is still a false edge, but it's so sharp and comes to such a precise tip there and point on the pinnacle right here that if you do any sort of batoning, it's going to destroy that piece of wood real quick. So just keep that in consideration. That means it's a phenomenal stabber. It's super strong and definitely, cool in every way, but it is going to eat up baton sticks really, really fast. Now, as I said, O-1 tool steel. Love that. This is like my second or third blade with it. Obviously, aside from the rusting, the uncoated rusting features, this would have been nice to see one of their higher end coatings put on this. That would have just helped with fighting against rust, because obviously, as we can see, but holding a great edge. We did do a little bit of chipping out with it getting damaged with some of the work we were doing, and it tuned up super fast. And I got a razor edge back on this size of a knife in about 10 minutes flat, which was awesome. Took out the chip and got right back to work. And that's not because it's a chippy blade. It was just we were just hitting on a really hard knot, and it kind of rolled and kind of chipped out a little bit slightly, and we were able to fix that really quick and get that razor edge. And it's holding a good edge, better than my 1095 blades for sure is the edge holding capability, but still easy to resharpen like my 1095.
So I just don't care what you say. If you had to do that with a 4-inch knife, that would have sucked. So I know there's something out there. Oh, Jim Bowie never chopped anything. Jim Bowie never batoned anything. Well, I am really sorry for him that he couldn't figure out that he might be able to just kind of.
Right. Finally, we do have a 90-degree spine back here, so it will throw sparks, and it is 0.31 inches thick here at the stock. So, it is a thick blade, but because of the grind angles and just the full flat grind aspect, it cuts just as well as my thinner blades that I own that are like 3/16, like the SE Hungalis, RTAC 2, or the BK9. It will cut like any of those, but it has that stouter capability to really slam through the pieces of wood and really split that wood easier than if it was thinner. Now, the full flat grind feature hinders that slightly, so just take that in consideration. It does bind up a little bit faster than a saber grind knife would, and that's just because of full flat grind capability. So I would say it's competitive with, say, like my BK9, but not any better than, say, like my BK9. So just kind of keep that into consideration when you are, this isn't like some monster batoner. I've seen knives that can baton a lot better that are like a 1/4 inch thick with a saber grind, like my BK2. It can baton better than this can, even though it's thinner. So take that with a grain of salt. Chops well, for the weight of 1 pound, And for the blade design, I didn't really have any issues, no reverberations through the handle when I locked up with it. It's got that straight off the back handle with that lanyard, so it is going to want to kind of fly out of your hand pretty quick unless you do our lanyard system that we've discovered through a video from, I believe, Blade Show. You know, I didn't come up with the grip at all, but that definitely helps with the chopping capability. So it'll do anything that like a 1 pound, you know, your BK9s and, you know, maybe like your SP5, stuff like that. It's going to chop very similar to that and going to do good, you know, brush clearing and limb clearing and small tree chopping, you know, all that type of stuff. And then, you know, if you are looking for a combat large knife, it does have that capability. The zombie apocalypse, whatever it is that you're looking to, you know, do hand-to-hand combat and defend yourself, it can do all that type of stuff. It has that capability and balance and feel in the hand, and it does work well for those type of things. And even the finer stuff, as we've discussed, it can easily do that because of the balance in the blade. So guys, overall, the blade itself, for an old classic Bowie design, larger, you know, 9.5-inch knife at 1 pound, it really does perform well. Not any better than anything else that's on the market, I guess, but not any worse in the blade area. And I am glad that they're using the O-1 tool steel, even though there is that rusting issue. So let's talk about the sheath here. Normally I'd be super excited because it's a SecureX molded plastic sheath. I've had great success with them, and they work for years on my other cold steel items. You know, you get lots of lashing points all around, you know, that molded plastic. You got a little drainage hole. They come with these removable nylon attachments that have Velcro and buttons on the back, so you can put it on your belt without taking your belt off. And then it has this little button snap here. This one's pretty loose. You can almost run my finger underneath there. And then, you know, all the retention is around the guard holding it into place. Well, that is not the case on this model. Just turning it upside down and barely shaking it, and boom, it's just falling out of the sheath. Very disappointing. I've been using this now for about 4 months, in and out, and just is not giving me any sort of a positive lockup, and it's constantly doing that. So very frustrated. It may just be a fluke on mine, but that is something to consider and to note there with the sheath system. So the only thing really it's saving grace is this little tab right here, because otherwise, boom, it would just slide right out. So keep that in consideration. Not super stoked on the performance of this particular sheath. You may have better luck than I did, but that's what I'm seeing on this particular model of the Trailmaster. So I want to talk to you about the price on the Trailmaster. Now, this O-1 tool steel version is going to run you about $130 to $140. We'll have links in the description below over to Amazon. There is a Semi version that I think, if I remember correctly, was like $200 to $250. So there is that option as well for a more stainless steel version if you're interested in that. At $140, if the sheath was functioning a little bit better, I think that would be pretty decent. You know, it is still a Taiwanese produced knife, but you are getting that higher quality steel. All the fit and finish is doing well on that. So, you know, it's kind of your call. I think for O-1 tool steel, it's a reasonable price. Not overpriced, but not a screaming deal either on the Trailmaster. So just kind of take that into consideration when you're deciding if you like Bowie knives, if this is the right Bowie knife for you. Now to the handle. So we just have a straight off the back Kraton handle, done really well, very similar to what you'll see on like an SRK or a Trailmaster, or excuse me, Master Hunter. Very similar in that sense, 5 inches long and good thickness, ribbing along the top and then pocking along the sides with that lanyard hole out the back. Now it is somewhat short at 5 inches. You know, it's not bad. You know, if it was maybe 6 inches, then you could really get some real estate on the blade and start hacking like crazy. As it stands right here, it's good. It's a decent handle setup. No hook out the back to kind of keep your hand in place. So again, if you don't use the lanyard system, I can't remember the name of it, maybe I'll annotate it in, you're going to have some issues. Now we do have a top and bottom guard because originally this is designed, you know, as that Bowie fighting knife, you know, so that is what it was originally kind of set up as, is just one of those big blades, and that's what, you know, it takes its heritage from. So you do have that really big guard there that keeps you into place. If you are going to be doing stabbing of any kind, you are locked in. Now they do give you about an inch blank spot right here, so I can choke up and I can just barely get over that and get some feather sticks done and, you know, do that. It's not ideal. steel. It's not what I would choose to do for, you know, a half hour of making a huge bundle of feather sticks. It's going to get uncomfortable and fatigue my hand. But if I just need to do some quick carving, I can choke up and basically use that as a finger choil and just bypass the guard just barely. So it's a classic design. Is it, you know, in the modern era of large choppers in this size range, is it the best setup on the handle? Not really. So just kind of take that with a grain of salt. It's classic, it's functional, but it's not overly functional compared to the competition out there like your Artex, SE Hungaluses, and BK9s. Well, folks, in conclusion, I got to tell you, it's kind of a love-hate relationship that I have with this knife in all reality, honestly. I love some aspects of it. I love the balance of it. I love just the cool profile and the steel that they decided to go with. I feel kind of disappointed with the sheath and how fast, and you know, it just doesn't hold the knife. You know, the V grind, that full flat grind basically that it has, just seems to jam up too much when I baton, in conjunction with how large and sharp that clip point is. I can't slam through the larger wood that it should be able to process as easily as, say, like saber grind knives that don't deal with quite the same issues, say like my BK9 or my SE Hungalus. I just don't have that same problem that I seem to have with this. So it's kind of, it's this duality that I have with this knife. Sure, it's cool. Sure, it has some capabilities. But at the end of the day, it's just not quite the style that I think I would be happy with long term. You know, it's not a one quiver knife for me, and it's not a knife that I would really want to pair on a trip out here on a trail. So to me, it's not a trail master. It's a cool blade to have, you know, throw it in the truck and go car camping with it maybe, or something like that. But it's not going to be something that I would integrate as one of my go-to larger chopping fixed blades that's going to be the master of the trail with me. It just doesn't hold that name in that regard for me and how I use the knife and the capabilities that I see in it. So I hope ultimately, guys, that's just helped you out with your decisions on whether or not the Trailmaster is the right knife for you. You've seen its capabilities, its pros, its cons, and now you can make that decision for yourself and the systems that you're going to plan on deploying it in. So as always, thank you so much for coming over here, checking out the channel. Please subscribe, comment, like, share this video. Love to hear your guys' thoughts. Check us out on all the relevant social media, and always remember, stay equipped, stay prepared. We'll see you out there.